All right, so we're live now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to IBM Developer Online Meetup. I'm sorry we're starting a little bit late today. We had some technical difficulties that, everything seems to be working fine now, so fingers crossed. My name is Upkar, and I'm a developer advocate at IBM, and I'll be your host for today. First of all, I hope everybody's keeping well, keeping safe, doing well. Um, Thank you for spending your time with us. This is my second time hosting Hair Technologies, and I'm sorry. I think there's an ambulance or something passing behind me, so sorry about that. So like I was saying, this is the second time I'm hosting these two incredible developer advocates from Hair Technologies, Mohammed and Vidhan. So glad you're here. This time we also have Mridul, who is an IBM developer advocate. Um, and Before we get started, a couple of things I want to share. So this webinar is part of Tech at Hair webinar series. This is this is our second webinar with Hair Technologies, and as you probably know, we have a whole bunch more coming once a week to share these the technologies with you, the different APIs, and all of the other resources. As always, this webinar is recorded, and the replay will be available immediately after the event ends. We'll also post a link to the recording to our meetup page, as well as we'll email you with any resources that are given out today. Um, if you want to be notified of events, of IBM events that happen in the future, if you look at the top, there's an IBM developer logo, and next to that, there's a follow button. So if you click on that, you'll get notified of all the new events that happen on Crowdcast from IBM. If you're new to IBM Developer, we are a team of developer advocates from across the world. We host online meetups, luncheon workshops, and hopefully, in the near future, we'll go back to hosting in-person meetups and lunch and learns. But this is where we're at right now. I'm sorry for the noise once again.
Keep safe.
Out of my control. Yeah. So a couple of guidelines for today, right? So you see the chat feature on the right. Use that. Make some friends. Ask any relevant questions. Questions relevant to this meetup, to the topic, to the concepts we're discussing today. There's also a ask a question button at the bottom. So if you use that, you can ask, instead of your question getting sort of lost in the chat, you can ask the questions are in the ask a question section, and it's easier for me as a moderator, as well as for our speakers to pick questions out of that. Okay. Well, lastly, I wanted to mention something about call for code, but I think Mridul, you'll go into that. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. So we'll skip that for now, and I know we're running a little bit late. So again, thank you everybody for your patience. Let's get started. And at this point, I believe, Vidhan, are you going to present then at this point, or is it you, Mohammed? Or maybe
so I will start with the presentation. Quick one.
Okay. All right. So Mridul, for now, I will exit you from the screen, and then I'll get you back in. Will that work?
Yeah, it works for me.
All right. Thank you. All right. Mohammed, you can try sharing now.
Yes. So get the application ready.
Perfect.
So thank you for having me today, me and Vidhan. So we are from Here Technologies. So we have the introduction quickly. That's part of the Tech at Home series that we have. That's the second part, and more to come eventually. So here in IBM, we have a collaboration activities to enable you guys to develop a lot of applications with location sensors. So we are using the IBM Cloud technology, using IBM artificial intelligence technology with the Watson. In the future, also we'll have the IoT and a lot of other really high-tech technology from IBM. We will enable that with the location intelligence and location services as such. So today we'll have an app that we'll use for the disaster resiliency. It's a start kit. There is a bunch of team working across the two organizations to have a ready-made applications and content eventually in the GitHub. The repo is there. A lot of material that we can help you with. Also during the session today, we'll go through details out of it and tips and tricks and how to enable some areas as well. So we have from IBM, we'll have Mridul, myself, and Vidhan from Here Technology. I think you saw the pictures very quickly. So Mirdwal is from the cloud developer advocate at IBM, based in the UAE, and Vidhan, he's a senior developer evangelist,
Hey.
based on hey based on India, and
Okay. So we, as Upkar had told you, we are facing a bit of the technical issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my presentation screen, and then we let Mohammed speak, right? Okay. So that is what I am intending to do. Mohammed, you can stop sharing your screen, and I'll share my screen this sec. And you can tell me when you want to move the screens. Okay. Okay. Uh, it seems that we are still facing issue with Mohammed connections. Okay. So let me tell you about this. Mohammed, we are not able to hear you properly. Oh, your voice is sounding like a robot now. Okay. So what I'll do, guys, is I'll present this. Okay, Mohammed, will that work? Okay. So we are part of what we call 2020 Call for Code. It is basically a global challenge where we are building something which is of use, as in, so say for example, right now we are showing you how to create a disaster resiliency application where you can deal with certain disasters like flood-like situation, and how to tackle that situation with the help of technology, with the help of IBM Cloud and using location. Location plays a big role. Say you are stuck somewhere and you want to get out of there. So what you want to know is which is the safest place nearby, or where are the food supplies, or where are the hospitals. So in that scenario, location plays a paramount role. So what we want is you all should join the fight. You all should think from the perspective of chiming in, adding something, some value from your end by tackling this situation from a technological perspective, right? Because everybody nowadays is connecting to technology. Everybody is using mobile. Everybody has access. Almost everybody has access to internet. If you talk about certain countries, right? We are asking you to do is join the fight. Now, I would like to invite Midul here.
Hi everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone is safe and doing well. Hello.
Yes, Midul, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, Vedant, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the screen's stuck.
Okay, we can move to next slide.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So as Vedant mentioned about Call for Code Challenge, so this is a global challenge hosted by IBM, and in this we try to build solutions that fight back. So the theme for this year was climate change, and looking at the current situation, we also included the COVID-19 track. So the focus for climate change would be on water sustainability, energy sustainability, and disaster resiliency. And so the starter kit we're presenting today would be focusing on the disaster resiliency. So that'll be for climate change. And in COVID-19, we are focusing on crisis communication, remote education, and community cooperation. So these are focus areas for COVID-19. So till now, we have had 210,000 plus problem solvers in past 2 to 3 years, and more than 165 nations have participated in this. And more than 8,000 applications have been built for this challenge. So this is your chance now to join this year, and you can choose any area, any theme, and you can go ahead and make your application. Now, what would you get for making this application? So you have a chance to win $200,000, and you also get a chance to get its support from the Open Source Linux Foundation. and you would also be get to meet meet mentors and potential investors, and there would be implementation through code and response. So this is what the Call for Code challenge has to offer for you, and I hope everyone is willing to participate in this competition, and we see some brilliant ideas coming up. Yeah. uh, Vidhan, next slide. Hello.
Changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see 2020 call for code?
Yeah, I spoke about it. Did you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can, yeah, I could see that slide. Yeah, can you go to the next slide? So now we would be starting with the hands-on session. Just waiting for the slide to load so I can share the links on that slide.
So basically, guys, these are the agenda for today, right? Why are we here? Then we'll have hands-on, and then what's next, and Q&A. So I think we have covered why are we here. Now let's move to the hands-on session. There are some of the parts which were left for why we are here. So we are here to build a disaster resiliency application, you can say that, or the solution, right? And what is the problem? The problem is that natural disaster kills almost 90,000 people, and it affects more than around 200 million people across the world. And that is the data from WHO, which is World Health Organization, and that is being caused because of the calamities which are not in our hand, right? And climate change is the major factor. Now, how technology can help in solving this issue or helping people out and fighting this scenario? That is what we are doing here. So, what is the idea behind this? The idea behind this is to use location technology, to use mobile, since everybody nowadays is having a smartphone which is equipped with internet, which has a GPS antenna, which can find out the location of a person. So the idea behind this is to help people build an application which they can use in such stress condition where they are stuck in flood, or they want to find out which is the nearest hospital or which are the nearest food supply location. They can simply open the application. They can talk to the Watson assistant AI feature, or they can simply go to the maps and they can search for required features or required facilities like hospital. Now, how does it work? The aim here is to provide end-to-end application or end-to-end scenario solution, right? And that is being done with the help of combining IBM's AI part, which is your IBM's Watson assistant, and involving a lot of machine learning and data analytics in the background, and then combining it with here technologies, location services, location APIs, and location features. Right? And in doing so, we have come up with a starter kit, which is called Disaster Resiliency Starter Kit. Now, if you look at the architecture, a simple architecture of this, then we have, say, a user, and user has a mobile phone. He or she opens a mobile application on his or her phone, and that application is basically a React Native application. So the application that we have in Starter Kit is a React Native application. Now, this application, what it does is it does three things, or basically we'll show two things. One, it communicates with the help of Node.js in the background with here IBM Cloud, or the local server which is running here IBM Watson service or Watson assistant that you can see at the bottom right of your screen. And that combined with machine learning of Watson, you can ask some queries that, okay, if I am stuck in flood, or what is flood, or which is the best possible way to fight a flood, it will give you a response back on your mobile application, and you can be assured that, okay, the information that you're getting is right and accurate and contextual. That is a major part here. And then once you have got the information, then you can go to the maps part of this application, and then you can search for nearby places, or you can search for, say, hospital, and you can click on it. It will show the information of the hospital, and you can be routed from your point to that particular hospital. So these is the complete plan. Now, again, IBM Cloud part has Node.js at the backend with Watson Assistant being integrated, and Watson Assistant has a feature of machine learning and AI. And on the mobile application part, we have the integration of Watson Assistant's calls, or we are calling Watson Assistant with the help of React Native, and JSONs, and then we are integrating here APIs, or basically we are integrating here JavaScript libraries, APIs with the help of your JavaScript libraries. And then again, we have option of integrating the weather company API, which is provided by IBM. So when you talk about what can be done and what happens here, if you talk about the IBM Watson Assistant, you can ask queries like this. Say you are stuck somewhere and you are simply saying, "Hello, should I drive my car through a flooded area?" And the Watson Assistant built in, or the model that we have trained, is going to return you or revert back with the appropriate reply that you should not be walking, or you should not be swimming or driving through the floodwaters, right? So that is what it does. Now let's move on to hands-on, and I'm going to hand over the control to Midul for this. Okay, Midul, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours. Okay, Midul, you can start sharing
Hello.
your screen. Yeah,
Hello. Yeah.
yeah,
Just a minute. My system stuck.
sure. So guys, the point is that we are facing a lot of issues right now. So technical issues, right? There's some of the Wi-Fi connectivity issue or something like that. So please bear with us, okay?
In the meantime, while Mridul is sorting this out, I've put the call to action at the bottom. So if you see, there's a green link that says "Accept the challenge." So if you do want to
Can you
join,
guys see my screen? Vedant, can you see my screen?
Not right now.
I have shared it. I'm not sure why it's not sharing.
No worries.
Give me. I'm not sure. It's not sharing, Vedant. Just give me a minute.
Okay, sure. Okay, so meanwhile, I can take on a query, right? So I can do that, right? Okay, so we have one query from Mentor Capitalist, and says that during most disasters, internet and cell services in the first to go down. Yes, will we have a fog AI or some sort of mobile edge computing? Watson cannot be reached for our current triage apps. Okay, that's a good question, Mentor. So the point is that we can install Watson as we have done in this scenario. If we are able to show it right now, is that we have installed a server locally which can communicate, which has a pre-trained data, queries, and a possible list of answers we have uploaded as a JSON file, which when we ask a query, right, it will go through that JSON list and will find out the appropriate answer on the basis of machine learning and analytics that has already been trained and models being applied in this Watson system. So that solves your offline issue, right? One thing. So it can work offline too, even if you don't have cell network or if your cell tower system is completely. Second thing is, yes, fog computing or fog cloud, or you can say that mist can work. But again, during such scenario, these systems can also go down, right? Because these are your normal centers, right? Data centers or server centers, which are hosting these things in a close vicinity. So that could also get damaged, right? Okay. So it should have a hybrid system to tackle such scenario, but this system works very well in such scenario. Okay, so middle screen has been shared. Now, Bill, you can switch your browser. You can minimize your browser, and you can start sharing.
Yeah. So I hope you guys can see my screen properly.
With
So
a
to
delay, but
begin
yes.
with, I'll just yeah. So to begin with, we'll be installing Node.js. Now, what is Node.js? So Node.js is basically an open source server environment.
Mridul.
It runs on various platforms and it uses JavaScript on the server. So it helps you use JavaScript as a language which is very compatible with a lot of technologies. Now, advantage of using Node.js, it is asynchronous and event driven, and it is lightweight and very fast. So to install Node.js, you have to go. We can go to nodejs.org. So this is for both
Yeah.
Mac and Windows.
We're getting an echo, Vidhu.
Unmuted yourself. Echo.
Now, please try to speak.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can. Now it's. Sorry about that. So you can go for the current version. You can click over here, and according to your operating system, this will automatically install the correct file. So for Mac, it would be the DMG file, and for Windows, it would be the .exe file. That is the executable file. So once that is installed, I've already installed, so I'm not going to install it again. So once that is installed, and if you've already installed for those people, so you can open terminal. For Windows, you need to open the Node.js terminal, and for Mac, you can open the normal terminal. So just a second, my terminal is taking time to load. And so you can just write node space -v, see to see if it is installed. So this we can check if node is installed. So I have the latest version, that is 14.5.0, and that is also installed here. And then to see node package manager, that will be using to install. Once you install Node.js from here, you can directly check the npm version. It's installed along with Node.js. So you can write npm -v to see if it's installed, and it should display the version. So we are set with our node and npm. So that is how you install Node.js. Now we'll be using React Native. So for our mobile application. Now what is React Native? So it's a JavaScript framework for writing really native rendering mobile applications for iOS and Android. It's based on React, Facebook's JavaScript library, as we all know, for building user interfaces. But instead of targeting the browser, it targets mobile platforms. So to install React Native, we just need to, there's a link. I hope you're able to see the link on the slide. Or I can share this link with you in the chat. Or Vedant, would you be able to share the link with them?
Yes, Mohammed has shared that link.
Oh, Mohammed has shared? Okay, good. So you go to this link. And you go you click on docs. So we have to set up the environment for React Native. So we go to environment setup and set up the development environment. So we click on this. Then we have to scroll a bit, and we are going to use client CLI quick start. So you're going to click on this, and so I'm using Mac OS. So for me, it goes on Mac OS. Windows will go over here. So Windows support iOS development. So you can only install for Android. So you have to only go through this process, and users, you have to go through this process. So for iOS, for Android, actually iOS first. So you just have to install Brew. We have to install Node first, which we have already done using Node.js.org. So Brew is a package manager for Mac, so you can install Node using that. Then we need to install Watchman. Watchman is a dependency which keeps in track of all the dependency versions, so it keeps a log of that. So for that we need to install Watchman. So this would be Brew install Watchman. So the code, the command is here, so you can just copy paste this command, and so I can just paste this command. I can run it here. I've already installed it, so I wouldn't install it again. So this is how we start with the Node and Watchman installation. So the next thing for iOS development you would require is Xcode. So this is only available on Mac. So you'll have to go to the App Store and you have to search for Xcode. So I've highlighted the app name Xcode. So once you have installed Xcode, you need to go in the command line and you need to click on you have to click on the menu, Xcode menu. I'll just show it to you. If I hope it doesn't crash my system.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. So basically what is happening is we have to get Node.js, and then we have to get the React Native for platform specific, right? For iOS or Android?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is actually this step install Xcode, and I'll skip the Xcode because it's not opening because I have everything running. So right now it's not able to open. The step you go to preferences and you check in locations if the client command line, and after that you just install Cocoa Pods. So it's basically a Ruby version manager. So we install this and just copy paste the command. So at sudo you'll ask you to enter the password. Now for Android the steps are very similar. So you click over here, install Watchman. And then for Android Studio uses Java, so we'll have to install the Java development kit. So this is the command for that. So you just copy paste the command and in your terminal, all these commands in your terminal, and it should set up. And once you install, you need to install a virtual device. So we're going to use run the app using an emulator. So you install Android Studio. Android Studio is for both the platforms and Mac OS. So you, both the platforms you can run an Android application. And then you install the SDK and you open the project. And this is the installation. It's very simple. So if you follow through the steps, it should work. And now moving on. So the next thing we have is, as as Vidhan and Mohammed mentioned, the chatbot we're going to be building now. So for this, we're going to be using the Watson Assistant. So for that, we'll have to register on the IBM Cloud. So this is the link. You can. I think Mohammed must have shared the link. And so you go on this link. So yeah. So you paste this link here. And this should open. So you'll have to fill in your credentials and register for IBM Cloud. And once you're done with that, it should open this page. So I already have an IBM account, so I wouldn't be going through this process. So yeah, so you have to fill in your credentials here and register for an account. It's a free account, and so it's pay as you go. There's a pay as you go on option. So as you deploy the services, and you'll be notified if you're paying. So don't need to worry about the payment thing. So fill in your credentials and you're done. So yeah, so I'll be opening my IBM Cloud account. We'll be setting up Watson Assistant. So Watson Assistant is just a conversational AI platform that helps you provide helps your customers provide fast, straightforward, and accurate answers to their questions across any application, device, or channel. So it's taking a bit of time to load. Sorry about that. So once you register on the previous link, something like this should open for you. So this is just a dashboard which shows how many services have been deployed, how many clusters have been deployed. So IBM Cloud offers a lot of services, so you can browse them through the catalog here. And now we'll be deploying the Watson Assistant service. So just search for Watson Assistant. So you can click on catalog results. You can click here. Yeah. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is a bit slow.
Yeah. So guys, IBM Cloud is not slow. The Wi-Fi has the issue. Okay, just to be clear.
So once this opens up, you can create a service. So as I mentioned, it's pay as you go. So we'll be going for the light plan. So we do not. So light plan also offers a lot of features. So we'll be going with that, and you can change the service name, and you can create the service. So it'll take a few seconds. So you can do that. Because I've already created a service, so I wouldn't create a service right now. So I'll go on to that. So if you want to see your already created services, you can go like this, and you can see the resource list.
I think we have some issue here. Okay. In that case, till Midul gets back, I'll continue from there. Right. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'll try to do my best, guys. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's having Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So he should come back.
So meanwhile, I can present my screen. So basically, you can create a resource, right? Like what Midul had told. So the resource I have created in this case is what we call Watson Assistant, right? I have named it as Watson Assistant Disaster, right? Okay. Let it open. Okay. So this is the page that we are interested in. right? So what you're going to see is you're going to see a bunch of details, which is going to be your credentials, API key, and URL, and both are important. Both will be used later on, right? But first of all, what we're going to do is we are going to launch Watson Assistant, and it's going to take us to a page where we can basically upload our data, right? We are going to upload a JSON file, okay, or we can basically create an assistant, okay. So you can check what assistant I have here. So I already have one, you can say that data uploaded, which is the starter kit flood dialog hyphen skill. Now this comes with your starter kit. Let me show you that. How does it look like? Okay, oops, just a sec. So if you go to starter kit, if you download it and if you unzip it, now this is what we have uploaded. Now if you explore this, if you check this, then these are the data, right? This is basically a JSON file which contains all the questions and answers that could be there and all the information. It's a huge file, okay? So what you can do is, for quickly starting, you can upload this and then you can get started quickly, or you can create your own model, right, where you have your own trained model where you're doing it, right? But here we simply clicked on create, and we have clicked on dialog, and then we have simply imported a skill. So we are not going to do that because I have already done that, right? So you can follow the GitHub link that has been shared with you, and this will give you all the information. Now, once you have the disaster assistant, right, you have the assistant, you name it as you want, then what you need to do is you need to go to the settings, right? And here on API detail, you have to grab almost all the details, not all the details, but you'll be requiring assistant ID, you'll be requiring the base URL, which is till this point, right? We don't have to worry about all the other parts. We just have to grab the base URL, and then you need to get the API key. Now, these are three important parts that is required to work or to provide to our kit, right? Okay. Now, let me go to the part where we have to actually provide this. Okay, so once you have forked out the project, or you have downloaded it and unzipped it, or whatever way you want to do it, right? Okay, after that, what you need to do is you need to open it in any of the editor. The editor that I'm using is Visual Studio Code, basically. And you can see the structure here. I have assistant, mobile app, and server app. Now, these are the important parts. We have server app, where we are basically going to do, we can do two things. Either we can create a local host, a local server, which will be hosting the Watson Assistant, and our mobile app will be communicating with that local host for getting the communication for our text messages, right? Or we can do one thing, is that we can push our you can say that assistant on the cloud with the help of Cloud Foundry, right? Okay, so what I have done here is, so what you need to do is you need to create a .env file. Okay, the environment variables, you have to provide the variables which we have grabbed from. Okay, you have to provide the values. Now, once you have done that, what you need to do is, I'll stop this and I'll move it a bit because my screen sharing tag is showing at the bottom. Okay, I'll terminate this. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to first install the dependencies, right? Okay, so that is what you do, is you run npm install, right? And if you face that, okay, there are some of the dependencies which has some vulnerabilities, then you run npm audit fix. I'll suggest that you run npm audit fix, and you'll see that you'll have a new folder called node_modules, which will contain all the libraries which are required. You'll see a unique code here. Explaining that role, I'll have to walk you through a code. Okay, I can quickly. Now, server-app folder, right? You have to simply the main part, or you can see that main piece of code in the server application. What it does, basically, it will be responsible, or it is responsible for communicating with Watson Assistant. So the first line that you're looking at is basically you are calling the API, your SDK, right? That is you're using the Watson Assistant SDK to communicate with the assistant. Now it comes inbuilt with our starter kit. Okay. After that, we have bunch of values which are faced or which are called from .env file that we had created, right? And what are the values which are being called? Assistant ID, API key, API URL, and API version, which practically remains same, right? Okay. Now, after that, what is happening here? If you scroll down, then we have basically uh, two functions, right? One is called message, and another one is called session. So these two functions are playing big role when you're talking about server application, right? So the first part is what we call session. And in the session, what is happening here is before you communicate with your Watson assistant, we are going to need a valid session ID, the ID that I've shown you there, right? So here also for a particular session for which we are communicating with our Watson assistant, whether you're talking with the cloud or you're talking with the local host, it's going to be a session ID, a token, right? Which for free tier, I suppose, is valid for 5 minutes. Okay. Now, what it's going to do is going to basically retain your communication. It's going to remember you that, okay, you are connected to it. And if you do not speak to it for 5 minutes, it's going to throw you out, right? So make sure that you're communicating in that window. Okay. So after that, we have another function, which is called message. Okay. Now, this is the piece of code which is responsible for the conversation with our Watson assistant. Okay. Now what it does is you create a payload here. Okay. This payload contains your assistant ID, your session ID, which we grabbed, your message, which you are going to send to your Watson assistant, which you're going to type in your mobile, and everything is being packaged into a payload and then send it to the Watson assistant, and then you get a response back, and that response is what we show on our mobile application. Okay, so that is how basically your server application works. Let's check if Vidul has his system ready so that we can show you the mobile application part. Vidul, are you there?
Yeah, Vidan, I can hear you. Sorry about that.
No
So I'll
worries.
try to. The application is running. I think it will work. So I'll just share my screen.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen then.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So yeah, it's taking a while to load. Yeah. So I think you can see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see your screen. So we have inception of screens here.
Yeah. So okay. So let me know if you can see the application running here on Android.
Yes,
the Android.
we all can see.
Yeah. So basically, the chatbot is located here. So it's the home page and the chatbot. So it's, I don't know, I'm clicking on the chatbot, but it's not going to that. It was running.
Oh, you can try the preview link. That will give you a very good
Yeah.
idea about how
So-
chat is working. Okay.
So this is here. So as you can see, I've already put in 2 questions. So let's try another one. Do I need to? I'm not sure why it's not taking input, but it was working. I tried out 2 questions. It was working.
Mridul,
So-
can you show the previous questions perhaps? So I know it's working, but the internet is slow, maybe, or your device, the emulator or simulator is slow. But if you scroll
Yeah.
on top, can you show how? Yeah, thank you.
I'm not able to scroll also. So it's these 2 questions which you can see are the only ones I can show right now because it's not scrolling up or down. I've been trying.
Yeah, that's fine. Even if you can explain, like, so when you say what are floods, how does
Yeah.
it get to Watson Assistant and how does
So
it, like,
Yeah, so an assistant, the JSON file which we included, which we put the skill up. So yeah, it works now. It's not what's the assistant which is slow, it's the emulator and my system which is slow right now. So
Right.
uh, I've put in the question, but I don't know how long it'll take to type. So yeah, so basically when I said what are floods, if floods are dangerous. So these are questions which have kind of similar response. So when we train a Watson assistant, we put in such similar questions and we keep a common response for them. So we take in variations of questions which the user might ask, which will have the same response. So when we put in the JSON file which we put, this contained all that. So if you go through the JSON file, I'll go through the JSON file. It's a bit slow emulator. So you can see here. So the common questions they have been listed together. Intents. We have created an intent. So why do we need have flood warnings? Should I be careful? Are floods dangerous? What are floods capable of? These are common questions which have a common response. And suppose these are questions which you want to know about floods. Now you want to know what happens after a flood is gone, or what's the aftermath. So these are the type of questions we can ask. Suppose the user wants to go home, so he should know when it is safe. So all these questions have a similar answer. So you have grouped them together. So this is how we have trained our Watson assistant. This is what included in the skill set which we are training and which have a common response. So this is what a Watson assistant will answer to these questions. So we have trained some questions. So you can try out this variation of questions. So it's like my neighborhood is flooding. So I'm not able to show it to you right now because my Watson assistant is stuck. So you can try these questions out. Even my actually my I don't know if my IBM this thing open. Yeah. So disaster. This was stuck here. So someone asked if they can check the Watson assistant. So you can see there's a preview. You can add integration and you can see the preview link. So this is the preview link. So this is the link. You click over here and this opens up. So yeah, it'll just take a few seconds to load. So what are floods? So you get this response. Now when can I go home? These are some examples which we have trained, of the chat questions you can ask to the chatbot which we have trained here. And this is how you can see the chatbot. Like it's a preview link is there, so you can click over there and you can try it out. So if you have created a Watson assistant service, there's a you can see the preview and you can just see it over here. And you can also integrate in the application, which how Vidhan has explained. So in the Android application, he was going through the code. So you've integrated in that. So you're running on a server and then you're connected to the Android application. And using React Native, it's coordinated with the application. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
So, Riddle, there's a quick question. If they're asking if the assistant underscore ID changes as you go from device to device.
Yeah. So no, the credentials remain the same for the chatbot. For one chatbot, the credentials remain same. So they don't change.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's see the code part, right? I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to explain you the code. And okay, Middle, can you stop sharing? Yeah.
Yeah, it's stuck actually. Yeah.
So when we look at this, you can say that starter kit, there are a lot of things which might seem complex, but trust me, guys, these are not, right? Okay. Okay, so similar to server app, what you do is you have a mobile-app folder where what you do is you have two subfolders which are Android and iOS, which tells us that this app or this particular one folder can run both the application, and it does, right? It can run your Android application and iOS application in the same way. Now, similar to what we had done for the server application with .env file, here also we have to provide the values, right? Now the values here are two values. One is your starter kit server _URL, right, which is going to be your URL. So I usually avoid putting localhost colon 3000, so it's up to you, right? In some cases, localhost colon 3000 works. In some cases, your IP address work. In some cases, your local IP address like 127.0.0.1 work. So you'll have to check which one works for you. Another value that you are required here is here API key. Okay, now how do you acquire this? It's quite simple. So what you need to do is you need to go to what we call developer portal. Okay, and here I think Mohammed would be able to share the link to that, right? And you have to sign up, and it's quite easy. You don't have to provide your card details, right? We don't ask for your card details. And apart from that, being a developer, what I like most about this portal or this services is that I have enough free credentials which can be used to create a prototype, basically. So we have around 250,000 transactions free every month. Right? So what you need to do is you simply need to register here with your first name, last name, your email ID, password, and that's it. And you have to check if you're a bot or not. And once you have registered, you simply have to log in. Okay, so how does it look like when you log in? So I'm going to close few of the folders here, right? Simply log in. And how do you acquire this API key? Okay, so I already had it logged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out and quickly show you how this login page looks like. Okay, so you have to simply provide your email ID and password, simply sign in, and it's going to take you to a project page. In my case, project name is 1. In your case, it will be freemium. So when you go there, you'll be presented with what you call a credential page, right? And we have credential page where we have the API key, or you can generate API key for JavaScript, for REST, and for mobile applications. So right now for this scenario, what we need to do is we need to grab the API key for REST, right? These are your REST API key. So we can create two, and I can show it to you, right? That's not an issue because you might think that, okay, I'm showing it to you, then it could be misused, but don't worry about that. I can simply disable or delete it from here, right? So you need to have this API key. So once you have grabbed the API key, you have to paste the API key here, and then you have to start the code, right? And that is going to be npm run Android, okay? So let's dive into the code. I don't have this running on my system, so I'll explain you the code. Now, when you talk about this mobile application, we have one entry point which is there for both, which works for both iOS and Android, and that entry point is app.js. Okay, I'll scroll up. Now, this basically is all React Native code. Right? It's completely React Native. Nothing else is there. Okay. What it does is it is loading a bunch of screens, right? And these screens are your home, chat, and map. Okay, and it is using a navigation container for the layout that you can see here. Okay, now if you scroll down, you can see that all the information are basically for presenting it, for resizing it, for formatting it, for views, especially for the view. Okay, so all these information is like that only, where we are basically creating a view. So if you want to edit the view of your application, right? So this is a page where you can perform the edit. You can change the layout. You can change from tab to something else. So if you see, we have tabs here. Okay, see here we have tab navigation where we have different tab screens. Basically, we have 3 tab screens, which are home, chat, and map. Now let's talk about individual screens that we have here. Okay, for that we have to scroll up, and we'll have to go to source, and then we have screen. Okay, so we have multiple screens. For example, home, chat, and map is something that I'm interested in. So if you check home.js, right? Okay, just give me a sec. Scrolling up. Okay, now this is basically your interface for the home page. Again, it is explaining you how it is being styled, the colors, and the positioning of different parts. Okay, if you scroll down, same thing. The major part comes here. First of all, the image that you see on your app is being called from here. You can change that image too. Okay, and some of the information about starter kit, disaster resiliency, and some of the information you can edit those things here. Okay, if you scroll down, okay, let me grab this here. Okay, and you'll see that you have two hyperlinks, which one takes you to the developer.ibm.call for code, and another one takes you to the GitHub link where the repository is there, right? So this is your home page. After that, we have chat.js. Scrolling up. Now, chat.js is basically, again, for styling. Okay, it grabs the server URL. If I scroll down here, you will be able to see the URL of the server. Now, here you can see that it is grabbing the server URL. In my case, it was 10.0.2.2 colon 3000. It could be anything in your case, right? Okay, it could be localhost colon 3000 also. Now, after grabbing the URL from the config, it is using it to communicate with Watson Assistant. So that part is being handled here, and that communication is to and fro, and that communication is shown here. And apart from that, you have get session also here, which is basically you're getting the session ID, API, or session key, basically, which I shown you earlier, and that is playing role here to keep the session going on. After that, we have another important part, which is called fetch message. Now, this fetch message is the part which is fetching the message from your Watson Assistant server. Okay, now what it is doing here is server URL / API / API / message. So whatever message we are getting, it's fetching us. It's returning that particular message for us. After that, we have map.js. Now this is the part where here comes into the picture, right? Okay. Now this basically is again styling, and you can see that here API key is being called as here API key, the variable name, is basically a constant. And the interesting thing is that it is completely built on a web view. Now, web view is a very basic and you can see that a trusted way of fetching a complete HTML page. So that is what we are doing here. We have a web view, which is acting as a container, and then we are calling an HTML page with all the JavaScript libraries in that. Okay, so we have this. Apart from that, one more interesting thing which is happening here. Let me show you that. Is the geolocation part. I think it went up. Yeah. And apart from that, we are also calling the geolocation from the device, right? So what it is doing is that when you will open this app in your mobile phone, it will ask you to enable the location services. It will grab your location, and then it will give you all the details of your context or your contextual surrounding or your vicinity. Okay. Now, next thing which is important here is what we call www folder, and inside that we have here .js. Okay, so this is the JavaScript here, which is used for here. Now, you can see that you have the marker red, marker blue. We are defining the color of the marker as SVG. Okay, scroll down. Then first, we have kept the lat long as hard-coded in case nobody is providing you the your application, the location, right? It's not allowing you. Then in that case, you have to show something, right? Okay, so we are hard-coded this in case you don't get the device location. And then we have performed some of the calculation, and then route line styles, route options. Now, this is a part which plays a very important role here. Basically, what it does is you are defining what you want for a person. Say the person is using car. Now, you can edit this, guys, right? You can edit it for your scenario. For here, the scenario is the mode of transportation is car, and you want to reach from point A to point B the fastest. We are using routing here, right? Routing is taking you from point A to point B. Now, it's not that simple, right? Although it is simple in applying, but the concept behind this is that when you talk about routing, taking a person from point A to point B, what it does is it could involve a lot of things, right? You want to say take a certain hops in between, right? Or you want to don't want to go by a car, you want to take a truck, and that truck is carrying something inflammable, so you want to avoid certain areas. So all those informations can be fed into the API. Or say your car is EV, and you want to take a scenario under consideration that you pass a route which has an EV charging station in between. Right? So all this information can be provided to our API, and it will return you back a proper route from point A to point B, which is fastest, which is for your car, and will contain all the parameters, or will satisfy all the parameters that you had asked for. Okay, and what you want to do here, you want to display that, okay, I want to see this on the map. And then this is what we are supposed to fetch from the device, right? And this is what we are supposed to go to. So this is waypoint 0 is your source, and waypoint 1 is your location. Okay, and then you have direction action, which will show you take a right, take a left, go straight for 100 meters, and so on. And then you can see it on a map with zoomed around a certain location. Okay, and apart from that, you have add info bubble. Okay, let's do one thing. Let me show you a quick usage of this in a broken down format, which is easy to digest for all. Okay, let me switch to a screen or a code which is created by one of my fellow evangelists, Raymond Camden. I'll share the blog link to it also. Okay, so basically this is one of the example of fastest routing by a car, taking you from, okay, I'm not good at the names, but I think it is Dubai Mall on right top of the corner to Burj Al Arab. I think this is Burj Al Arab. Okay, now what is basically happening here? Right, this is the fastest route given the traffic and everything. If I refresh this, it should remain same. Yeah, it's same. Now let's look at the code of this quickly. Okay, so now same code, but in a very simpler format. The first thing that you do is, like other mapping libraries, our map libraries also ask you to, or ask the code to fetch the JavaScript libraries, and it is all the JavaScript libraries you can see here, right? All fetch the JavaScript libraries with CSS also, and then we are defining a container, the width and height I have defined. And the next thing, a logical thing, is after providing your API key, which I have hard-coded here, and is to create a map. Now this map creation is being done in these steps. Now you might be thinking that, okay, there are a lot of things here which are not easy to digest. You don't have to, everything is documented, right? Okay, now meanwhile, I'll share the documentation with you, okay, which will be helpful for you in case you get confused here, okay? Now, apart from that, what we're doing is, once we got the map, we have the base map. On that, we simply have to create a route, right? And for that, we are simply calling the instance of routing service. And in that instance, we are packaging, or we are providing these information: mode, that is again fastest car, starting point, which is Dubai Mall, and the destination, and then we want to display it, and then we are simply passing it to calculate route function, right? And it is going to do all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to worry about anything. Apart from that, if you want to pass on, let's say that I don't want to go by car, I want to use a truck, or say that I want to have many intermediate stops, or I want to go from A to B to C to D instead of A to B, you can do that, right? Or if you want to mention that, okay, I want to start at this particular time, you can also do that, okay? And again, after that, we are simply drawing it with blue color line, right? So that is one of the very simple example of how you can start with routing. I'll share the link to this once I'm off the sharing my screen, okay? Now, after that, you can start a marker, right? And you can build a marker for point start and the end point. And this is what we are doing here. And then we are adding everything to the object on a map, and we are getting the view. So that is one of the examples, and it works well in disaster situation, because when you are stuck somewhere, you want to reach to a location which is safe for you. And that location could be a hospital, could be a food supply if you're looking for food, right? Okay, and you can change the marker also. Now, similarly, another scenario that you can use of maps and which are being used in this particular resiliency kit is the marker. Okay, now these are the markers. Now, to give you a perspective or context here, let's say that you want to search, or you are searching for particular resource, or you have a backend web service or a service which is sending you a bunch of latitude, longitude associated with, say, hospitals or food or groceries or any necessary asset, you would want to show it on a map so that a person can see and visit there with the help of routing. So what you want to do is you want to create a marker there. Now, this light bulb shape marker is something by default we have, but you can change it. You can change it into a food diagram, or you can change it into a hospital picture. How does it look like? It's very simple. What we are doing here is, again, we have the mapping library that we are using of JavaScript. Again, we are calling the map with the help of API key. That remains same. It's simple. It's very simple to call these things, and we are calling the behavior of the map, right? It's basically zooming in or dragging and all those features. And finally, we are providing, in our case, in my case, I'm providing the hard-coded lat long just for the sake of ease. Otherwise, you can grab it from the backend service. And then we are passing it on to an object map as an object, and we are creating markers for all of them. Okay, so this is basically an example of how to create a map marker, right? Okay, you can get all this information. Okay, I'll share with you. Now, if, say, we don't only have, say, if you want to create an application, you might not want to show only the maps. You might want to have something which is voice enabled, right? Like I'm saying to you, or you want something that shows the direction on the basis of voice. In that case, you won't go for JavaScript or mapping library embedded with API. You will straightforwardly would like to go with the APIs. So we have also those APIs, right? Which you can again find on the documentation. Okay, let me show you a few of the APIs, how they run. I'll share with you. Now, instead of, imagine the same scenario, instead of showing it on a map, you just want to get the data so that you can pass it and take out something important from it for your usage. Okay, so here what we have done is the API. It has a simple URL, router.hereapi.com/v8/routes, and we are passing the parameters. And the parameters, as you can now judge, is transport mode is car, and this is the origin, which is Dubai Mall, and we have the destination. Okay, and action, what you want to do is I want instructions and I want to draw a polyline. So the response basically that we get is geometric values, which you can use to draw it on a map. So when you run it, you will get the information like this, right? You'll get the route, your vehicle you have already selected, which is car, your depart, where you should head, and you should keep on going, to what route, for how long, and so on and so forth. We'll get on the instructions, like say a U-turn, and which you can convert it into a text-to-speech for you to work on an application for disaster management. Because while you are driving under a disaster, you won't want to be using a mobile application, right? You want to have a voice-enabled feature which is guiding you through the flooded area or an area which is not safe for you. Okay. Similarly, you can also, if we talk about other features, then we have next transit departures, where you provide the API key and where you are, and you're actually asking for what are the departures near me and when they are leaving. So starting point is basically Dubai Mall. So we have a station there. And what are the transportations available there? We have basically buses, and all such information are basically you can use to show a very useful, you can say that information which can be used by the users to gain some knowledge out of the data that they have, right? So everything is about converting data into information and then into insight or knowledge, right? So that is what we do. Apart from that, you can also have calculate transit route. Okay, I would like to share after this. I'll share all the links, guys. Okay, again, this is basically, we are calculating transit route, but now we are not defining that we want to travel by what. We are letting the API do this for us. And if you hit send, an API is going to do that for you. And what it's going to do, it's going to tell you that, okay, you have to walk from here to this distance. Okay, you have to go to Dubai Mall, and you have to walk a bit, And after that, you can take a transit from Dubai Mall. It's basically a station. It's going to take you to Burj Al Arab Hotel, right? So you will have the arrival time, with time and everything, so you can show it in your application. Okay, so these are the few of the examples. And another thing which could be quite useful when you are creating a disaster resiliency application is what we call Isoline. And I can share this link with you. This is important. Now, Isoline, guys, is basically, you can say that is, say you are somewhere and you want to know the points which are at an equal distance from you, right? Say 5 kilometers from you. So what you're going to do is some car and it wants to, or you want to know at what distance am I from, or am I at say a 5 kilometer from whatever point on the outside, right? So reverse isoline also works very well in disaster situation, right? Because you would want to know that, okay, if the water is filled to a certain level, then what are the areas which are safe for you? And in that scenario, these isoline basically work. So you can change it basically, right? So it is for my area, right? I live in Bangalore, India. So it is centered around that area. Okay. So you can try this out. And if you want to see the code, you simply can go to the view source code and you'll get all the code for this. And you can simply copy it and you can start working on this. Okay.
Thanks, Sudan. So
Awesome.
we're running a little bit over, but I do want to tell everybody all of the links that have been shared in the comment section. I'll make sure we put them in the follow-up email that goes to everybody who's attended the event today. So if you're not taking notes, not a problem. We'll send you all of the links. And with that, I'll pass it to Mohammed.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Vidhan. Thank you very much, Merdwell. I think we had a lot of useful information, a lot of discussion that we have today. Just if I need to have quickly share the screen for what's next. So we have a lot of questions about location services. I think we managed to, during the day, to give you some insights and some answers. Today's session is a part of a series, just a quick reminder. So we had last week, and then today, Tuesdays, and more to come on the coming days. So please keep us in your agenda, in your calendar. It's exactly the same time every Tuesdays. Next session, we'll have more information about the starter kit for the community collaborations, another tool, another way to give you some insights to build very quickly using IBM Cloud technology, Watson, and here technologies. I think we have a lot of. Yes.
You're sharing your slides. I don't see anything. So maybe try sharing again.
Or I can share it for you.
Or Vedant can get it.
Okay, I'm going to share it for you. Just give me a second.
Uh-oh.
Sharing now. Okay, Mohammed, are you able to speak? Okay, your voice turned into robotic again. Okay, no worries. I can quickly speak from here. So basically, the idea behind this is that, okay, right now we have talked about disaster resiliency, but what next, right? So when we talk about industry, right, and when we talk about disaster, then humans are the asset, right? Similarly, in different sectors, we have different assets. Okay, say for your company, you are asset. So if you talk about IoT, then the things that we have are the asset. If you talk about, say, your most of the computing, cloud computing, your data is the asset. Similarly, if you talk about supply chain management, you have your vehicles, your truck, which is carrying that particular thing or supply is your asset, right? So what we can do is, or what we are going to explore is, we can find out where is the asset with the help of IBM Cloud and here integration, right? We can have when the asset started, or when asset is going to be where, or where is the asset right now, and how did your asset travel, and how long the asset is going to take. right? Okay, so all these things can be tackled with the help of cloud and location services, right? And that is what is something which is going on a lot in today's scenario, right? Especially given the current situation. Sticking to the same concept, what we are going to do is we are going to have every week, every Tuesday sessions. Today was a webinar, and upcoming sessions will be a mix of webinars and mostly workshops, starting with, we had one on 7th July, and then on 21st July, we'll have with starter kit. And then on 28th July, we are going to have visual recognition with IBM, Watson, and how to integrate it in location services. After that, we'll have sessions on IoT, where we'll be integrating IBM Cloud with location services. That is going to be, again, your workshop. And after that, we'll have a webinar on blockchain and the importance of location in blockchain and how IBM Cloud is playing a role in there. And after that, we'll have one of the session on location enablement or including location in Node.js. So these are the sessions which are planned for the future. And if you have any queries, guys, you can ask us, and we'll be more than happy to answer those queries.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. So before you hang up, there's a, excuse me, I've changed the bottom link to survey. So if you don't mind going and answering a couple of questions for us today, obviously there's some technical issues. We had some voice issues. So, apart from that, if you have any comments on the content itself, please let us know by answering the survey at the bottom of the screen. That'll be very helpful. And, as Vedant said, we'll see you next Tuesday. I believe we're talking again about, we'll be showing some code.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to that. Again, thank you everybody for being patient with us today. Obviously, not the best day to do a webinar for some internet reasons, but I'm glad we're all here. Mohammed, thank you so much. Vedant, thank you. Mridul, thank you to our great speakers, amazing speakers, to come and share their knowledge with us. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Please don't forget to take the survey. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Stay safe. Bye bye.